Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. No sooner do I do a video on yesterday's, little shove that Daniel Dubois gave Usyk, and Frank Warren running around with pictures trying to show it. Anyone will look at it that the punch in the fifth round of the first fight was legal in his opinion, and all this bullshit, this fake narrative crap. I covered it in my previous video. But then, after doing that video, I go and watch today's press conference. And I feel compelled to make another video because it's starting to piss me off now. In fact, Daniel Dubois and his whole team are starting to really piss me off. The press conference began with Dev Sandwich, who, of course, is a Queensberry employee. He's the mouthpiece for Don King. That's a Freudian slip, isn't it? From Frank Warren. Mouthpiece for Frank Warren. He's Frank Warren's sort of Lord Haw-Haw. And Dev started by saying, Daniel fought Oleksandr Usyk previously in Poland, and Oleksandr emerged with his world titles, but under a cloud of controversy. Now, hold on a minute, Dev. Let's cut the bullshit up, please. There was no controversy. You are a mouthpiece for Queensberry, and you immediately, as soon as that press conference starts, begin talking a load of crap about controversy. There was no controversy. There was a fake narrative stitched together by Frank Warren, Queensberry, Dubois, Don Charles, that Daniel had somehow been robbed of victory. Nothing of the sort occurred, as anyone who watched that fight live, just the once, you don't even have to watch it back, will tell you there was no controversy. This is a complete attempt to stitch together some sort of ridiculous narrative, fake narrative. And then when the press conference begins, we suddenly get, more of the same. Now, step forth Mr. Don Charles, who is someone who I used to have a lot of respect for. I have to say, well, that's gone out the window, because immediately he starts talking about, I have great respect for what you've achieved, Oleksandr, but it has to be said that, you're not being honest. You know that you were flawed legitimately. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but you were flawed legitimately, and you're lying. You're a liar. And I have to say, as someone who claims to be a believer in God, what God do you worship? Thou shalt not lie. Well, first of all, let's get the commandment right. It's the 9th commandment. Thou shalt not bear false witness, Don. Okay, that's what it's to thy neighbour. Yeah, you shouldn't lie. All right. But if you want to try and grab the moral high ground in a very pompous, pious sort of way, well, two can play at that game, Don, because I am an atheist, or at the very least, a militant agnostic, shall we say. I'm not religious at all. I think it's all a lot of bum fluff, a lot of guff. But I have read the Bible, which is actually one reason why I am an atheist. Not the main reason, but... And I know what's in that book, unlike most Christians who've never read it. Probably you as well, Don, okay? So if you want to get all sanctimonious about things, I do hope, Don, that you haven't been wearing any clothing made out of linen or wool, because as you will know, as a deeply religious scholar, in Leviticus, it says you're not meant to do that. You're not meant to do that. And while we're on the subject of the commandments, Don, you'll also know that there are actually 613 commandments, not just the Decalogue. And that goes, that's actually something that Jewish people believe. The Torah, which is essentially the Old Testament, talks of, the 613 commandments over Exodus and Deuteronomy. I might have that bit wrong. Anyway, is that not good enough for you, Don? Well, perhaps we should refer to another passage in Leviticus which said you're not allowed to sit in the same spot where a menstruating woman has sat. You ever done that? A woman who you might even know she's menstruating, but she sits down, then she gets up and leaves, and you sit in her place. Ooh, you're not allowed to do that, mate. No, 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 certainly not. I mean, what about Exodus? Should we get into the subject of slaves, of slavery? As a black man, you should appreciate the history of slavery. But in the Bible, slavery is perfectly legitimate, as is outlined in Exodus. If your slave refuses freedom, pierce their ear. I know, I speak from experience. But my favourite, if you want to get all biblical, Don, is that I can't remember the exact phrase. I can't remember the exact passage. I mean, I've read the King James version of the Bible, by the way. That's the version I've read. But there is a bit in it. I think it's Deuteronomy where it talks about when you're fighting another man, you have to chop off his wife's hands if she grabs your genitals or something. This bullshit's real. I mean, go and have a look. Don't take my word for it. Yeah, and it's Deuteronomy again. Our old friend Deuteronomy. So, Don, Mr. Don Charles, you're such a religious man, such a pious man, such a virtuous, sanctimonious man. You want to talk to Mr. Usyk, cast doubts on his religious beliefs. You're free to do that, but by all means, if you're a believer in God and a Christian, as I believe you are, I believe I've seen you on several occasions mention that you are, then I do hope that we're not back to the old people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Let he who has not sinned cast the first stone. You got that, Don? Yeah. And by the way, just before I finish this video, let's bear something in mind here, okay? Oleksandr Usyk has spent his whole career fighting on the road. I mean, there were a few occasions very early on in his career when he fought in Ukraine. But for the most part, certainly all his world title fights have been abroad. First time he fought Daniel Dubois, he was considered the home fighter. He didn't even fight in Ukraine, he fought in Poland. And it has to be said that yet again he has come into Britain to face an Englishman. How many English fighters has he faced? In Britain this time, at Wembley Stadium, and he's being treated like a punk by the Dubois team. I think it's a disgrace that this brilliant fighter, who has been nothing but absolutely gentlemanly throughout his whole career, is being treated in this manner. I think it's disgusting. It makes me embarrassed to be British, to be honest with you. And I wish that Dubois, but let's be honest, I mean, Dubois is, the old word would be a bit retarded, isn't it? But he's on the spectrum. This, wannabe tough guy thing that he's got going on, wannabe bad boy, wannabe a new Sonny Liston, it's all a bit embarrassing to me. I think wish he'd shut up. But considering his intellect, I think the people that we have to point fingers at are probably his old man, and certainly Don Charles. Don Charles should know better. I mean, Stan Dubois is a funny old cat, isn't he? But Don Charles, he should know much, much better than this, and to behave in this disgusting way towards Usyk. And in fact, Don, if I was you, mate, I wouldn't be asking about any sort of low punch that wasn't. I'd be asking myself, why did my fighter, following that 4-minute interval, suddenly unravel so alarmingly, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, to the point where he actually took a knee and sat out the count from a jab? That's what I'd be asking. Not casting aspersions on the man's religion or, trying to make up some sort of dumb, moronic, faux narrative about really my guy won, really my guy knocked you out, you cheated, He didn't cheat, mate. Do you know how I know he didn't cheated? Do you know how I know he didn't cheat? Because he didn't get disqualified because he abided by the referee's instructions. Oh, by the way, Don was also casting aspersions on the referee. The referee had apparently been, conditioned. It was like a sort of psyops, or whatever they call it thing. The one that the conspiracy theorists go on about. Yeah, it was one of those situations. But and of course, I don't know. Was it Igor Klimas who said during the press conference, well, actually, we counted about 20 low blows from Daniel. Daniel Dubois definitely hits low, and he also uses his head a lot in fights as well. So you want to talk about cheating? It comes in different forms, doesn't it, Don? Doesn't it? Eh? Yeah, of course it does. You know it does. Anyway, a few thoughts about that distasteful press conference. And there's Warren sitting there in the middle, pretending to be neutral, secretly delighting in all the crap that's being talked. What do you think? Comments below as always. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button if you like this video. And let me know what you think. I'll have a read of your comments. But we need less of this shit. It does embarrass me to be British when I hear this sort of crap. Anyway, let me know what you think. Like I say, thanks a lot for watching. And I'll catch you later. And bye for now.